The following podcast on the Your Own Pay Podcast Network will contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised. More information about this episode can be found at yourownpay.com.
This is a Pay-On Media production.
That was a totally unexpected closure, but it kind of worked out.
So I wasn't really actually trying to close it. I just was like, hey, here's a good time to make sure.
Well, I really didn't have anything else to add, did you?
I didn't either. Like, I mean, I could have came up with something, but I was like, well, here's a good time to tell people how they can let us know if they're getting value out of the show. So,
and this section right here is what's going to go into the beginning of the show. So people be like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but it's time. Damashe and Michael, just talking tech.
Okay. You're on channel 4. Why are you on channel 4? I guess it doesn't matter. I know where you are.
You're on channel 3-4 right now.
Yeah, you're just on channel 4.
Because I was smart for once and actually went in and set it up so it doesn't use the master audio. Although it really doesn't matter, but I've come to the conclusion that I want any VoIP software to come through channel 3-4 because ultimately I should not be on two VoIP softwares at once. I mean, it can be done. But if I'm doing that... But you probably
shouldn't be. If you are, it's going to be a special situation or you want to tweak the circumstances. Yeah, that's... I mean, all of my VoIP stuff typically is coming out of channel 5 using loopback, but for some reason you're on 4, but I'm not going to mess with it.
Right. At least it's working. And you can adjust my audio.
And I know where you are, so I can adjust you. Make sure we don't get any bleed over.
Right, there we go. And then like when the phone rings, it's always on 1112. So now that I have we'll talk about that in a little bit. Quick follow up for people. If you have any questions or comments, I'm learning now to put the link towards the beginning of the show. So if I ever have to do something like what I had to do, that we'll talk about too, at the bottom of this list in this Google Doc, then I can easily find what episode it is. So yourownpay.com/DM80 if you want show notes and more information. So Damashe.
There it is.
Yeah, you see it? Or
I was saying there it is, DM.
Yeah.
yourownpay.com/DM80.
Yeah, I said you had left the paragraph, and then you're like, there it is. So I thought you saw the last thing that I put on there.
No, I see this. So Tia's experience with Safari.
Yes. Has she even noticed?
Yes, she has, actually. So I was mistaken. I just hadn't heard about it. There apparently was a reaction. I just wasn't there for it, and she didn't bring it up to me. So essentially her reaction is what you said Mallory was, where she looked at it, and she was like, what the hell did they do?
Right.
She does not like it. She does not like the address bar at the bottom. Nah, she does not like the address bar at the bottom at all. I told her she could change it back, but she said, well, I've been living with this mess for a week, so I guess I'll just keep it.
So maybe right now she thinks she doesn't like it, but subconsciously she does like where her finger falls in order to get to the address bar. Maybe.
I think that's likely. One thing I'm going to have to look at that I didn't think about until right now is how she actually holds her phone, because she has the 12 Pro Max, but she also has, small hands. I was going to be in politics and say she has small girly hands, but that's not right.
We'll stick with small hands.
Well, she has small hands, so she may not hold her phone in the same way that I would hold my phone, because just about every phone she has had since the 6 Plus, she's had to hold in one hand and operate with another hand, whereas I can usually manage to work any phone one-handed unless I need to actually get to a specific area to do something, and I don't want to do a whole bunch of flicking.
Makes sense.
So that could be one thing that's so different for her, is that I'm usually holding my phone in one hand and I can navigate with my thumb, and actually having the address bar at the bottom for me means I don't have to do the whole phone shimmy.
That was talked about in DM79.
It was.
I don't even remember what we called that episode, do you? I said, I don't even remember what we ended up calling that episode, do you?
I do not. Hold on, I can probably tell you in a second.
Oh, I do. We'll give Damashe a second to pull it up so he can tell us what we called it.
Oh, well, actually, I don't see it.
Oh, it's the click. I called it the click because we kind of talked about the click and clicking and stuff. Although I think maybe I fixed that issue. We'll see. I took some very extreme methods, if that's really what it took to fix it.
Oh, I just heard a click.
What?
I just heard a click.
Are you kidding? I'm sorry, Damashe, I can't hear you anymore. All right. So I've finally got a good setup on the board. Let me know if the click becomes overwhelming / extraordinarily pertinent, I guess is the right word. And we'll make some sort of alterations if possible. But I got a decent setup on the board. When we've talked about the Soundcraft Signature 12 MTK, there is a pack of 6 buttons that I did not know what they do, and I still only really know what 2 of them do. I have suspicions, but this 6-pack of buttons is on the upper right side of the board, and it's 2 across by 3 down. The top left button, when it's not pressed, I have my audio going out of aux 1 on the board. And in order to adjust the volume of aux 1, for each channel, I have to find the aux 1 knob and adjust that volume. And then there's a master aux 1 knob on the right side of the board. With it, and the sliders have 0 effect. In my headphones, the sliders have 0 effect. I can move them up and down all day long and I won't hear any difference. And to me, that's frustrating because I bought a mixer and I wanted to play with the sliders, even though, it was working. And every time I would get on the computer, Benjamin would have all the sliders like almost all the way up, but he would have the top left corner button pressed on that 6-pack. And so I could not figure out what was going on and why he would do that and why I never had audio, because I'd pull all the sliders back down because I'm like, they don't need to be up and I don't want something to actually come through if I accidentally hit the master button. Well, just messing around the other day, I don't even know how I found it, but I realized that when you press the top left button and you have headphones plugged into aux 1, the sliders then do affect what audio is coming out of the board into aux 1. And of course, you can turn up the volume on the knob, or if you set it straight up and down, then what comes out of your board into your headphones on the slider volume should be similar to what would go to the master track if you press the master buttons. So hopefully that made a little bit of sense. The second button down is the same thing for aux 2, and I think the third one is the same thing for aux 3, but I tend not to play with aux 3 because I've learned that if you don't have the slider immediately to the left of the 2 sliders all the way down or that channel muted, then anytime you turn up aux 3, you push more audio into the effects bus, and so that effects then comes through to the recording. So I don't really play with aux 3 that much because aux 1 is plenty for me. But that's my setup now. I get to play with sliders and buttons and knobs. And I even have it set up with the headset buddy that now when I come up to the, like right now, I did it subconsciously without even thinking about it. When I come up to the board, I just plug my phone into the lightning adapter. And then if someone calls me, I have the lightning or the headset buddy plugged into channels 11, 12 and into group 1. Which means if I press group 1 on channel 1, which is the very bottom button on the right side of the channel, then anything coming out of channel 1 is then played through the phone so I can take phone calls. So as long as I have Reaper open boosting my audio, then people can hear me on the phone. If I don't have Reaper open, it's very difficult to hear me. But then that also told me that, let's say I wanted to send Damashe's audio, because I have Damashe on channel 3-4, since CleanFeed will let us choose an audio channel for each person. Then if I wanted to, I could send Damashe's audio into the phone simply by pressing group 1 on channel 3-4. If we were streaming on Clubhouse or something, then people would be able to hear my audio from group 1 and Damashe's audio from group 1 on channels 3-4. So that's where I wanted to go. Finally have the board set up. How are you using it, Damashe? Because you're still using the master monitoring, aren't you?
I am still using master for my monitoring, so I'm getting everything straight off the master track. So if I push the master button on any track, that means I hear that audio. I have aux 1 actually set up to go to my headset buddy. Yeah, so I have been using aux 1 for the headset buddy, I think. Let me check. Hold on one second. Okay, yeah. So I do actually have aux 1 going into the headset buddy. So if I have my phone connected to the board and I answer a call, that's how people are able to hear me, is because I have the aux 1 knob for channel 1 turned up so that audio gets fed in. Similarly, I could do the same thing that you're doing. So like if I were connected to Clubhouse right now, I could route my audio and your audio into the phone, into Clubhouse with the headset buddy. This 6-pack is interesting because that does allow for some different types of routing of audio. I have been on master just because it's what I'm used to. With any sort of board that I've had, I've always plugged into the master. And the auxes I just use because I want to be able to route audio into something else. So I was for a while using the USB sound card, external sound card, to push audio into the computer that I wanted to send out, and I would use that device as the input for like Zoom or Google Meet or whatever. I don't have that connected at the moment because I noticed yesterday with testing before I did a meeting that I was getting a little bit of noise from that device. So I just disconnected it and went back to using my old fallback of a loopback virtual device, and using audio hijack to boost the mic level from channel 1 into that device.
It's funny, Damashe, for people who obviously aren't here live because we don't do anything live right now, Damashe was adding links to the bottom of the page, and so I found myself adding links to the bottom of the page as he was talking. So, if we stick with this, maybe we'll get a decent setup working. But because we have a Google Doc open.
We're back at Google Docs again.
Yeah, it comes full circle, but with some ideas of some of the topics that I wanted to talk about. Kind of like, my morning when I got a wild hair up my ass and said, hey, I want to go ahead. That was actually a name of an episode, by the way. Wild hair. Michael, I forget which one Michael gets a wild hair. But anyways, so I decided I wanted to restore my computer because, well, 2 reasons. Number 1, I've been getting some random issues with the computer, and sometimes you just need to restore, especially when you've ran beta software. And I also wanted to experience the Windows 11 setup process from someone who didn't just upgrade, but was able to set up their computer and maybe got a new computer. What's that process like? And yes, Cortana is no longer in the setup process like was in Windows 10. You do have narrator through the entire setup process, and the next button that you have to click a couple of times is actually labeled as yes button. And I will admit a few times I said, what am I saying yes to? But I clicked it and I went through and got everything all set up. This morning, I think it took me an hour or so. And then I had the process of actually setting stuff up. Because setting your computer up and setting stuff up are 2 different things. So, yeah, got that all set up, though. Actually, about an hour and a half before Damashe and I sat down to record, I actually got the interface working.
Oh, man, don't tell me this.
Why?
Don't say this. No. Because I read this message from Michael this morning. It says, so wiping the computer or something. Hold on, actually, let me go read this message. So I get this message. This is what I wake up. Well, actually, I didn't wake up to it, but I see this message from Michael. Yeah, because I was up at this time. So I'd see this message come in from Michael when I was working at the computer, and I flip over check messages, and it says initiating operation wipe and reset. Wipe and reset. LOL. And the first thought in my mind was, no, Mike, no. We got to record today. No, we don't. We really don't got time today. Why not tomorrow, Mike?
Saturday.
Next Saturday, Mike. No, not today. But he's already done it, right? Because I see the message maybe 30 minutes after he sent it.
So he didn't say anything back to me.
So I didn't say anything. And then about an hour later, I get a message from Mike that says, and 1 hour later, computer is set up. Mixer is working, just need to install Chrome and 1Password and all that stuff. I was like, oh, okay, well, it didn't take that long to get back up and running. Good. Maybe this is not such a catastrophe. All right.
Yeah. Problem.
Oh, and then I get a nice note. And I also backed up my Reaper settings this time, too. I was like, all right, great, good deal.
Yeah.
And, oh, no, I didn't get another message after that. We had a brief conversation. You were like, so I'm still got to set up a couple of things. And I was like, oh, no, Mike, it's like 7 o'clock, man. What are you doing? No.
So the problem is I didn't install the drivers, and I got audio working just fine through the board until I would quit JAWS, which I shouldn't have to do this, but I quit JAWS regularly throughout the day so I can switch over to NVDA or Narrator or something. But I quit JAWS, and then I brought it back, and it came back on board system audio. I'm like, man, this is not working. And then I remembered that there's this 2 going on 3-year-old driver that I needed to install. And in order to install it, you have to enable unsigned drivers on Windows 11 too, apparently. Very simple process now that I know how to do it. You go to recovery, then you click on startup, then you click on advanced, and then you click on reset or restart. Don't click reset, click restart. And then once it restarts, narrator will come up if you want to use narrator, and it comes up talking to you. You click the restart system or something like that. I forget the exact terminology, but there's directions on the website. And all of this is accessible until the last part where you have to hit option number 7 to enable or to allow installation of unsigned drivers. And Benjamin helped me with it the first time. And I said, hey, that's actually not bad, because once you tap number 7, then the computer restarts. So it's not like you have to tap number 7 and then go down to restart computer. Once you tap an option there, then it restarts. So you could accessibly do it, wait about 5, for this computer, it's about 5-6 seconds. And then you just tap 7, and I tap it 2 or 3 times. And then I wait for the headphones to come on, or for the startup sound to play. Then I go in and I install the driver and I restart the computer, and then it works fine. But yeah, everything else aside from remembering to do that worked. Without the driver, I had very crackly audio in my headphones, and none of my sliders would adjust any audio, even with the button press. Like, none of my setup was working, but I installed the driver and all my problems went away. So moral of the story, if your device has drivers and you're on Windows, it's probably a good idea to install them.
Yep. That sounds very much or very similar to the process you have to go through with certain things on Mac OS now too. Like in order to use any of the Rogue Amoeba tools, as far as, or at least the ones I rely on, Audio Hijack and Loopback, you got to go allow, what is it called? I forget exactly what it's called on Mac OS now, but it's like allow kernel extensions. I forget what it's called, but if you use Audio Hijack or Loopback for sure, and I think Sound Source also, you're gonna have to go allow this, and it's a whole recovery, go into the recovery mode process, go to this thing, check this box, reboot the computer, reboot again.
Right. So the biggest issue I had, and I haven't told Damashe this part yet, but the biggest issue I had when I got installed, I said, this is a clean install. Why not start with some extra beta software? Because, beta wasn't the reason why I did this in the first place. So I went and I downloaded 1Password 8 beta. And I got signed into one of my accounts. And then I tried to sign into another account and couldn't get that to work because I have 3 1Password accounts I signed into. And I couldn't get it to work, not because I was unable to remember the security key or anything, because for the first time in my entire life, I can say this, I actually went to 1Password's website and signed in with all 3 of my 1Password accounts to make sure I had the proper key, email address, and password. Which I feel proud of myself for doing that, because ask Damashe, it's often, he was probably thinking when he saw that message, oh boy, I'm going to have to reset Michael's account for 1Password. So, yeah, got that installed. And then I'm like, this 1Password 8 looks a little weird, but I can work with it. And then I tried hitting the applications key. Now, there's a little bit of a history to this, but I tried hitting the applications key directly to the left of my left arrow key, and nothing happened. I'm like, all right, this shit ain't going to work. I'm trying to get my stuff set up. I want to be able to copy something out of a item in 1Password so I can go authorize software and get up and running. So I'm going to uninstall this, and I threw a baby fit, as Mallory calls it, and went and grabbed 1Password 7 because it works, and everything's good. And then my applications key wouldn't work in there. And I'm like, something's not right. And then I realized that is not actually an applications key. It's a control key. And I had mapped it with sharp keys to applications key. And so I think maybe I'll try 1Password 8 again now that I know that it was my error. And I actually downloaded Windows Power Toys to try to remap it and not use sharp keys. And so, yeah, that's my adventures today related to restoring a computer and setting up 1Password. Damashe, do you often reset a computer, and do you run into some hurdles like the ones I've outlined today?
I really hate resetting a computer, and mostly it's not. So the process really is not as onerous as it used to be in the past. It's fairly quick. And because I have backups like on a local hard drive, I can oftentimes, copy over any really important file, so I don't worry about losing data. And a lot of my stuff is either in Google Drive, iCloud, or sync.com, my sync.com account. So I get a lot of that stuff back out of the cloud. So the process of recovering is not so difficult. What gets me are the little things that were getting you, right? Like you did some remapping with sharp keys. Like, again, you forget about those things when you're setting up, like, because your computer just works the way that you expect it to work. You've gotten into the habit of how it works. So when you start doing stuff, it's like, oh crap, why is this not working? And it's like, oh, because I need to go install Keyboard Maestro, or like there's some things I'm never going to forget. Like I'm not going to forget to install 1Password.
No, because I can't do anything else.
Right. I'm not going to forget to install Launch Bar because, well, my computer's broken if I don't have Launch Bar. Oh man, I would be so sad if they break it. Please don't break it.
Yeah. Please don't break it.
So things like that I'm not going to forget to install, but I might forget Keyboard Maestro because I'm not a super power user of that as much as I like it as a tool. Like I just don't have the time to sit there and, dick around with it as much as some people do, to figure it out, to work through some of the processes with using voiceover to do certain things. But I do rely on it for quite a bit of things. Like I have a macro set up right now that if I disconnect my Thunderbolt dock from my computer, there's a macro that runs that automatically switches my audio output, including voiceover, to the MacBook speakers. So I don't have, because I'm always messing with these virtual loopback devices. Well, the virtual device doesn't go away when I disconnect something, but it doesn't have a way to send the audio out to the computer, right? So I switch everything to the internal speakers. Similarly, when I plug the dock back in or plug my board back in, anyway, it automatically, switches everything back to the way that it was before. So all the voiceovers coming out of channel 3 and all of that stuff, happens automatically. I restore this computer and I guarantee you I'm going to forget about that. And I'm going to plug something in and it's not going to work. And I'm like, what the hell?
Right.
So yeah, there are things like that. There's some, lower level developer tools I use in the terminal that like getting those set back up and tweaked just right is a pain in the ass. Oftentimes, and what I'm going to start doing is looking at some options for, in some way versioning or keeping track of these what they call dot files, like, different config files for terminal behavior and stuff like that, actually keeping them versioned, because one issue I noticed when going from Intel to the M1 is some of the tools I used were not yet available for M1, or it was a different tool, or, using Homebrew on the M1, things are stored in a different directory than they were on Intel. So a lot of my little scripts or config files, like they were breaking or just did not work at all because they were pointing to a location that was no longer being used by a certain tool because its directory had changed. So little things like that are what get me. I do myself need to wipe my computer because I'm having some weird little audio issues where occasionally I have to open up terminal and run kill all core audio D to reset core audio, because there's something weird going on. And I'll go to preferences and don't see any devices on my computer. I hear audio fine, like nothing's not. But if I'm in an application like say Clean Feed and I'm trying to select the output or the input device, well, there's no devices apparently on the system. So
and
things like that
concerning.
It is. The first time it happened, I was like, wait, what? Okay, I rebooted, and I was like, I can't keep rebooting. I was like, well, I know there's a way to, let me try this. And yeah, sudo kill all core audio D will reset core audio, and it comes back, and it's fine for a while. And occasionally I'll go trying to set, the input device for Google Meet, and I don't see any devices, and everything is dimmed. And I'm like, gosh. So
yeah,
I will get around to it. Possibly next Saturday will be my day for doing this. I wasn't going to do it today because I had a lot of work going on. I probably would have done it today. But I'm working. I'm really trying to wrap up like 2 projects so I can get on with my life.
And that's why I didn't do it tomorrow, is because I have a podcast interview that I'm conducting, and I'm editing someone else's audio tomorrow, and I knew we had to edit today's show tomorrow, and because Monday is Mallory's on my anniversary, and so I committed to her. I said I'm not going to do any audio editing on Monday, which means I got to get all my audio editing done tomorrow. So
well, happy anniversary. And it's also Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day or...
Yeah, and when you have multiple Google calendars on your phone, Siri tells you have 6 appointments. It's the same fucking appointment.
I saw the same thing. I looked at Monday because I'm like, wait, isn't Monday a holiday? So I looked at Monday. It's like, you have 6 events. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, me too.
Hold on.
I'm like, wait, what do I got to move? I got to call some people. I gotta tell people, hey, I'm sorry, I can't do this. It's my anniversary. And then it was just... yeah.
Indigenous Peoples Day, Columbus Day, Native American Day, some other day I've never, like a whole bunch of stuff.
And then they're repeated because we have multiple calendars on our phones and Siri. Oh, yeah. So that's our first sidetrack going on and talking about these damn holidays. So good. So next weekend you may get your computer restarted.
If I can get this one specific project off my plate by the middle of next week, absolutely, because I really do need to do it, because I've tried reinstalling Mac OS just over the top of the current OS and I'm still having the issue. So obviously I have tinkered with something somewhere that I should not have tinkered with.
Yeah.
But because I tinkered with a bunch of stuff to get stuff working on the M1, so I don't know what that may have been.
So I think it's funny. I'm using Dropbox Pro or Premium or Plus or whatever the hell they call it. I think it's Dropbox Plus. But I'm using that for some projects because I finally just said, I'm just going to do it. I don't like it because I already have space. But now I have 3 terabytes of cloud space. Well, maybe it's 2 terabytes in Dropbox. I don't even know. Plus, however
2
many
2 terabytes of Dropbox, I think.
However many iCloud gives you, that's 2, isn't it?
Yep.
So that's 4 terabytes plus OneDrive is 1 terabyte plus Google Drive, which I have 30 gigs. So I have 5 terabytes in the cloud. I am not going to use anything near that. Just saying. Anyway, so that's the one app I have not installed yet is the Dropbox tool because, well, I just haven't done it yet. But yeah, everything else is going good. And we'll see.
Yeah. 1Password 8, man.
Yeah, 1Password 8. What are your thoughts on it? Because I don't think I gave 1Password 8 a fair try when I got frustrated that my control key wasn't doing application things. So I'm going to retry it again.
So I have been using it for at least the past week. It may be a little bit longer than that, but at least for the past week, I've been using 1Password 8 beta, I guess is what it is.
It's 1Password 8 beta now.
So for those listening who don't know, 1Password has developed their new application in version 8 is on desktop operating systems is using Electron.
Quick change alteration. I forgot because Dave published a blog post and now 1Password 8 is no longer beta, it's early access. Same thing, but
Okay.
I'll link to the blog post.
But they're using Electron to lay out the front end components of the app on Mac OS, Windows, and Linux because 1Password is also on Linux. Obviously, when I first heard this news, I did have a negative reaction. I got to be fair about that. I did have an instant sort of negative reaction to it, but I have felt the pain tremendously of not just the overall sluggishness of a lot of Electron apps on Mac OS, but the horrible, truly horrible across the board implementation of accessibility and keyboard navigation for said Electron apps. 1Password 8 is not that bad. I took a quick look at it when it first came out, so that would have been August, so almost 2 months ago. And I was like, this isn't that bad. There's enough rough edges right now that I cannot use it on a production machine. Like if I were one of those people with extra computers laying around that I could just use all the time, and I had the time to engage in such activities. I have children, so, whatever. I probably would have kept messing around with it. Now, one thing that did make me go back and take another look at it is the fact that Safari 15 has been released for Big Sur. So we got the update to Safari 15 on Mac OS Big Sur. So did not have to wait till Monterey came out, which is good because we'll upgrade to that till like next January. And there were some bugs with the 1Password for Safari implementation in Safari 14 that were apparently fixed in Safari 15. However, at the time that they released the early access beta back in August for 1Password 8, the only way to get Safari 15 was through, having the Mac OS Monterey beta on your device. And everybody that knows me knows I do not put beta operating systems on my Mac.
He'll do phone and he'll do watch, but not his Mac.
Look, yeah, exactly. I'll do phone, I'll do watch, because, I can always get around those things not working. If my Mac ain't working, like, I seriously ain't making no money. Like, I ain't doing nothing. I'm sitting here looking crazy. So I decided, hey, I can go try it again, because switching back to 1Password 7 really was not a problem at all. And I gotta say, in a lot of ways, it's nice. There are some rough edges with voiceover that need to be ironed off, but I have continued using it because none of them are painful enough that I can't use it. I've actually found 1Password in Chrome and Safari to work rather well at this point. It still annoys me when I'm just navigating through let's say a form field that I need to fill out, that every form field I drop into, I get 1Password, available, 1Password menu available. And sometimes that attempt to share that information with me sort of not freezes, but inhibits me from navigating to the next element on the screen for a couple of, maybe a second or two. So that's a little annoying. But again, I feel like if I use it long enough, I will, one, get comfortable with it because, hey, it's not going anywhere. It's going to be the thing that happens. And two, when I actually start trying to have the time to seriously put together the thoughts that I have jotted down randomly here and there in drafts, Fortunately, I used a 1Password beta tag, so I'll be able to find these random jottings. I can compile sort of a coherent, here are the things that are super annoying that you really like. I really would appreciate you focusing on these right now. Here's some things that are slightly annoying. Here's some things that are going to really cramp people's workflow or their efficiency if they're a screen reader user. But overall, it's not too bad. There are some nicer things about it in some ways than the old 1Password app. Now, I do have to say that there is an issue that I have experienced, both on iOS and on macOS with 1Password. I sign into one account, and it is hella difficult to sign into another account in the browser.
In the browser itself?
Yeah, in the browser. So like for some reason it decide, I don't know what made it decide, because every time I sign into, whenever I set up a new device or am setting up 1Password for the first time on a device, I always sign in with my business account first, because for me that's my primary account. Mike, that's the one of them all that you also have a shared vault in. Mm-hmm. And then I will add my family account because of two things. Number one, well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, that is where most of the stuff that I need to get into is, such as like my G Suite account, things like that. Secondly, the 2-factor code for my family account is also in that 1Password account. Now, obviously, I could go pick it up on another device, but hey, it makes my life a little bit easier. For some reason, the browser on all of my devices, whether it's Chrome on the Mac or Safari on Mac OS or iOS, decided to choose my family account as the account that it was going to have me sign into first. Okay, well, I signed in, and then I try to go sign into another account. And there's a weird little loop that I keep getting caught in where I follow the steps to get to sign in to another account by going to the settings for 1Password in the browser, and I click sign into another account, and then it wants to open the 1Password app on said device. Well, so I do that thing, and then it goes there, and then nothing basically happens. I don't see anything happening on the iOS app. I don't see anything happen on the Mac app. Go back to the browser, I'm still only signed into the one account. The only way I was able to solve this for anybody else that may be having this problem is on the Mac and on iOS both. I signed out of the account that I could not get added to the browser first, then went through those steps to add a new account, signed into that account into the app, and then it bounced me back into the browser. Now I'm signed into that account. So I hope that made sense for everybody.
Mm-hmm. It did. So you just had to go through a different process or procedure of signing in.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be that way. Like I shouldn't have to sign out of the app in order to get the browser to connect. So that to me is a bug, but it's still in early access, right? It's not released. So, there's that. Now, what I do truly hate, like I absolutely 100% hate, is the implementation of the 1Password for Safari on iOS, on the iPhone specifically, because I haven't used it on an iPad. Number one, I can't use biometric authentication, so I can't use Face ID on my iPhone to sign into the browser extension on Safari. I have to type in my password every time that I need to re-authenticate. That's annoying. Really, really annoying. Really, really inefficient. My password is long. It's super long. Like it is just not crazy, ridiculous long, but it's long.
It's long enough to inconvenience you throughout your day with how many times you have to sign in.
Secondly, so for people not having used any of the extensions in any browser, when you're in the browser on the desktop, you drop into a username field, a password field, you hit arrow down to bring up the 1Password menu, and it shows you your suggestions. You can arrow through those, and that is actually working quite well again. And Safari on the Mac and Chrome on the Mac is quite good. On iOS, on the iPhone, tap into a username field. I want to sign into this account. And I get a, VoiceOver reads out the screen notification that 1Password menu available. Press the down arrow to activate. There's no down arrow on my phone. Now, I have had tremendous, and I do mean serious problems trying to use I think I have gotten a password to fill in once in Safari on iOS. So I've just reverted back to using the above keyboard suggestions or the password button above the keyboard to get to, the old way of doing it before they added the Safari extension. I have reverted back to just relying upon that because it's reliable. Work. Yep, because they work.
And you can use biometrics to unlock 1Password.
To authenticate, exactly. Right. Like, look, man, I won't be typing in this password. I made the password difficult so nobody looking at my fingers could try to guess what it was, because it's like, I really like hamburgers. Like, no, you're not gonna, it's not that simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's very convoluted, and I don't like typing it in. Here's the reason I'm so happy my Mac has Touch ID, because I don't like typing it in.
You don't even have to use Touch ID, though. You can use your watch and not even touch it.
Yeah, I could. But usually my hands are already on the keyboard, so I just reach up, because I'm not using the external keyboard as much as I used to. Mostly because there's a mattress behind me that's, helping kill some of the sound, and I can't pull my keyboard tray out. So I'm just using the keyboard on the MacBook Pro. So I'm already on the keyboard. I just reach up and tap it with my finger, and we're good.
So in summary, I'm going to retry 1Password beta probably in the next couple of days, admittedly maybe a week or two. I'll probably actually try it next weekend, because now I have my setup working. I can get into all my work accounts. I'm able to get everything that I need to set up there. So Damashe, now that we have our 1Password secure and our digital presence, I think you had some questions you wanted to ask me about a new acquisition we acquired.
Yep. So Mike told me, what was it?
2 weeks
like 2 weeks ago now,
Yeah.
almost 2 weeks ago, that you picked up a new smart home device. You got is it the Simply Safe security system?
Yep. We got
Awesome.
the Simply Safe security alarm, which is kind of like it reminds me of a bowling pin, honestly. And that's the part that you plug into the wall. And then we got the keypad to disarm the alarm. And then we also got the smart lock. And that came with a keypad that we put outside. And then we have a couple of sensors to get started with. Oh, and one of the cameras too.
Ah, okay. So you have a keypad outside to unlock. Now, does this keypad go on the door in place of a key?
So, yeah, the way the lock works is you take off the plate on your deadbolt on the inside of the door, and you replace that plate with their little box thing. And it's got batteries in it, and then it doesn't alter the deadbolt on the outside, so you can still use a key to open it, which is important, because
yes, it is.
If the batteries die, I still want to get into my house. I don't think that'll be an issue, but then where we put it is right outside our door, when you're looking at the door to the left of the door itself is the keypad, and it's adhesed to the wall right there. And so you can just punch in the number, and then it automatically unlocks the lock for you. So you can tell that the little deadbolt on the inside is turning. You hear a noise, so you know when it's done turning. It doesn't do it super fast. It's also not super slow. And then you can open the door. Now, the Simply Safe app, and we can talk about that in a moment, will also tell you, or it taps you on your wrist and says, door unlocked. And I'm like, I know, my door's unlocked. I just unlocked it. Like, thank you. Appreciate it. But that's another way to know when the door is unlocked. And so we have that keypad outside. If you enter your code, because everyone in the house has their own code, and then we have a master code. And if you enter your code, then I think it disarms the alarm. I haven't actually tested that. I think it does. But then when you come inside, there's with our house setup, you walk in and it's the washer dryer right there. And then there's another doorway right in front of you. It's not an actual door, it's just a doorway that goes into the kitchen. So we have the inside keypad on the dryer side of that doorway when you come in, the second one. So it has 3 buttons across the top. There's an off button, which is the top left button. There's the home button, which really there isn't a difference in home and away. The away button is the third button, because we don't use a motion sensor right now. But there's the home button and the away button, and then it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 *0#, which star and 0 or Star and Pound have different functions. I forget what they are off the top of my head. And then lastly, the keypad on the outside has 1, 2, 3 through 9, and then on the left where Star is a lock button, 0, and then delete is that setup. So yeah.
Got it. Okay. So, yeah, first, I definitely agree. Like getting one of these, so I agree that with any smart lock, I prefer the type that allows me to replace the inside portion of a deadbolt. And basically all that thing is doing whatever their setup looks like. All it's doing is just turning the deadbolt from the inside when you want to unlock it. But it leaves my key intact on the outside because I'm paranoid, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to leave my house and come back and, the Bluetooth is supposed to unlock it, or this keypad is supposed to unlock it, or your fingerprint is supposed to work, and then like something's broken or the electricity is out or whatever. It's like, I'm just stuck outside of my house. Now I'm the one breaking into my home. So what do you think about it? And we've talked about the notifications a bit offline, but have you worked out a solution for all of the notifications of door open, door closed, door unlocked, door locked, all of that? Or is it just is going to happen? There's not really any granularity there.
So there is some granularity there. Right now, I have it set up so I know when the lock is unlocked. So how we first had it is we had a what they call a secret notification, so it didn't notify emergency services or anything, but it would send Mallory and I not text message, push notifications whenever the front door was opened. And that got old real fast because we also wanted the lock enabled. So when someone unlocks the door, we get told what time they unlocked it and who unlocked it. And so we got that all figured out. And so now all we get is a notification when someone locks or unlocks the door, arms or unarms the alarm, because I want to know when someone turns it on or turns it off. And then we also get a notification when someone goes by the camera. It'll say that that the camera detected some motion. Now, in the beginning, the alarms, or not alarms, but the notifications were a bit much. But again, it was a new toy. So Benjamin had to go arm and unarm the alarm every time he went in to take the garbage out. And Michael had to go push buttons to see how well they work. So now that it's kind of just part of the utility of our house now, it doesn't have the novel newness as it did, so I'm a lot more tolerable of the notifications. But there for a while, ask Damashe, I was bitching about them notifications because they seemed like they were always going off. So yeah, got that all figured out now, which is positive.
Yeah, that's one thing. So overall, what do you just think about the system, and then just in general, like having it set up, like, does it make you feel simply safe?
It's funny because Jeff would ask me, he'd say, so are you simply safer? So I don't know that it makes me feel more safe, but it does make me feel more aware. And that's, I think, the most important part for me is knowing what's going on. And we have it set up now, so when the door, like one of the notifications we could probably turn off is the door lock, because the door automatically locks 30 seconds after we come into the house or we unlock the door. So that's something that we may disable, but I do feel reassured that the alarm, or that the lock is going to go ahead and lock right after I close the door, even if I forget to, because there's been a couple times where I forget to lock the lock. So that's definitely nice. And Damashe is playing with Todoist in his dock. Honestly, what was going through is, man, I'm glad we're recording on our own ends.
Oh, I didn't know you was hearing the phone at all.
Yeah, I was hearing the phone. That's why I'm kind of hesitating.
Mute does not work, and audio hijack just crashed, so that's nice.
Ooh, I can still hear you.
Oh no, so I'm just coming straight into the board, straight off the board into
clean feed.
Yeah.
Yeah. not an issue because we record on our own tracks, but
Yeah, I didn't. I see. I
and
thought
it's not like
so
I heard what you were texting or doing, but I heard and then I heard to doc Todoist. I'm like, oh, Damashe put Todoist in his doc.
I'll try.
Yeah. So yeah, Simply Safe. I do feel simply more aware, and we'll have a link to Simply Safe in the show notes at yourownpay.com/DM80. Now, my mute does work because Damashe didn't hear me say, "What the fuck?" when I was reading through these notes. And I'm like, wait a minute. So, Damashe, iPhone 13 mini arrived today for you?
It did. It did.
Okay. Now, that is interesting. You were on a 10R, right?
Yep, I was on the 10R. And I got a nice offer from T-Mobile, which was roughly about, I don't remember the exact, but basically I got something like a little bit over $400 off the purchase of a new iPhone by trading in my 10R. And I was like, I'm not going to get a deal that great, and it's probably going to go away eventually.
Yep.
So yeah, let me do this and get a phone, because they're also, the rumor is out that they're probably not going to sell the mini again next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually really did want a smaller phone. Like the size of the 13, regular 13 or 12, and the regular Pro was like, I can deal with it perfectly fine. I mean, I could deal with Tia's big ass 12 Pro Max if I had to, but I don't really want to, because I'm carrying around a much bigger device for not very much benefit to me. Like, the screen size doesn't benefit me. None of the apps that I'm aware of, or at least the ones that I use on a regular basis, are doing anything special with any of the enhanced camera capabilities of a Pro model phone. And battery life really is sort of not that much of an issue for me. I mean, maybe I'll realize in 2 months, like, oh man, the battery on this phone really sucks. But I don't hardly go anywhere. So, look, just throw it on the charger while I'm sitting at the desk, which is what I do a lot of times anyway. So yeah, I went ahead and got it. I got the iPhone 13 mini in, what do they call this? Midnight. Tia just said it's black.
Yeah.
Everybody else says it's just black. So that's what I got. I got the base model at 128, because that is now the default base model storage for all the iPhones.
Double
this
the
year's
storage
128.
my 11 has, and that's so weird to think about.
It's double the storage of my 10R, because the 10R I had was 64 gigs, so it doubled my storage without me having to, actually bump up the spec of the phone at all. So it got here today. I've taken it out of the box. I did the transfer deal from my old phone to the new phone. 2 points. It got stuck towards the end, which is that's what you were hearing me doing. I thought I was actually muted, so I don't know why this doesn't work when I'm talking, because you still hear me.
Yep. Sure
do.
do.
I don't hear me off the board. What the hell are you hearing me off of? Anyway.
I don't know. That's weird.
But what I was doing was restarting the phone, because it was, both devices were telling me that the transfer was done, but this one just wasn't getting off that screen, the mini. But 2 nice things for me in this case, because it kept me from having to call T-Mobile, is that it did transfer my eSIM from the 10R over to the 13 during that transfer process. Like, it popped up and asked, would you like to transfer a cellular plan? And the only one I had on that device was that one. It transferred it over. I was like, awesome. I don't have to call T-Mobile to handle that.
Nice.
It is a nice size. Anybody that remembers the iPhone 5 or 5S or the original SE, it is a little bit bigger than those phones were, but not by much. Like, I actually have a original iPhone SE, not the current one that looks like the 8, but the original iPhone SE over here on my desk. So that phone can sit basically in the middle of this phone and have like equal space around each edge, but not even a finger width of space around the edges of it. So it's not very big. It is actually smaller than the 8 or the current 2020 SE that came out last year. That's the same size as the iPhone 8. It's smaller than that device. It does have the 2 cameras on the back of this one, because it's not a Pro. They're at a diagonal now instead of being stacked on top of each other,
Which is weird.
which I don't think I knew.
I knew it, because that's why some people were saying you probably can't use the same cases, but it's just weird, I think.
It is weird, and the camera bump it's absurd. Like, just from my perspective, it is absurd. But it is a very nice size for me. Like it feels nice in the hand. I do really like the flat size of this phone.
I was just going to ask you if that one had the flat side. So the
Yeah,
mini,
so-
all the minis do then.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
two-
So it looks just like it's on the same design scheme as the 12, 12 series phones was. The only thing they changed about these phones basically is that they've put the cameras on a diagonal instead of being vertical. And on the Pro model phones, I think the camera bump is really outrageous, but I have not seen one. This is just what everybody seemed to be focused on, is like the camera bump is just outrageous. To the
tell
point,
you-
I've heard a couple of people suggest that they need to just take up the whole top portion of the phone to add the cameras so that they maybe can spread things out a little bit
Right.
more.
Just make it like a camera bar instead of a camera bump.
Yeah,
Heard people
exactly.
say that a couple times, but
Yeah.
maybe they won't get the effect that they're shooting for. So that's exciting though. We will do some follow up to see Damashe's thoughts on this in 2 weeks and see how it's working. And literally, I had zero clue that this was happening until I saw the notes, and I'm like, wait,
I was gonna tell you. So I was gonna tell you I bought it. And I was like, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna wait. And then I looked to see when it was gonna be here because I ordered it. I think Wednesday, maybe.
yeah.
And it shipped out. No, I think I ordered it Tuesday, and it shipped out like Thursday, and it said it was gonna be here today. And I was like, oh, well, that'll be perfect. I'll just tell him then because he won't know anything about it. And the only reason I wrote it in the document is because I was like, well, he'll read it and then he'll say, "What the fuck?"
Yep.
But you muted when you said what the fuck.
yeah.
Lost a little bit of that effect.
I muted. I don't remember what you were talking about when I read it, but I muted. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, well, that's okay. So I accessibility when I was on accessibility 167. I'll link to it because the episode is finally live now that we have a system in process for that. I said I'm not going to get a new phone, but every time I say I'm not going to get a new phone, I end up with a new phone. Well, I should have said someone in our household ends up with a new phone because Mallory traded her 12 Pro in for the 13 Pro Max. And guess when her phone's going to be here? Between October 24th and November 17th. So
Ugh.
I'll let you know how the camera bump is. But yeah,
So was she on the jump plan, or was her phone paid off and she just traded it in?
I don't know what plan they need to figure out a way to unconfuse that because I am so confused about what we're paying for anymore. Anyways, so her phone was not paid off. It was mostly paid off. So I think what happens is she gets because our bill is only going to go up $1, I think it is, in the difference. So I think what happens is she gets that phone paid off when she trades it in, like they pay it off, and then give her that much credit towards the iPhone 13 Pro Max, whatever it's called. So our bill's only going up by like $2, which $1 or $2.
That's kind of negligible, yeah.
Yeah, it's enough that I'm like, okay, well they could raise my bill with that and say it's taxes. So yeah, let's just go ahead and do it. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I wish they would have given that offer for Tia's phone to trade hers in and have the credit balance of whatever up to $1,000 covered the whatever was remaining on her phone, and then we just pay off the rest. Because I would have upgraded her mostly because of that macro mode, but I was like, well, I'll just pay off her phone in another probably 6 or 7 months. It'll be completely paid off, and then I can decide what to do with it next year. But whatever the Pro Max phone that comes out next year is, it'll have whatever we got this year plus whatever's next year features. And just upgrade her at that point in time and not really too much worry about it. I went ahead and upgraded my phone, mostly, like I said, because the deal, I was like, they're not going to keep running this special. I know they've been running it for about a month, but, at the time I was planning on possibly upgrading, I probably wouldn't have gotten that much on a trade-in of a 10R. So I was like, let me get this while the getting's good.
So Google frustration. Wait.
What is Google frustrations, Mike?
So,
Or what has Google done to frustrate you now? Because this is this may become a recurring segment.
a segment of the show. Yeah. Yeah. So long story short, I've been just using gmail.com to access my email. And I hit C, and that starts a new message. I can start typing someone's name, use down arrow, hit enter, select them, press tab, and it says, oh, you normally email these people too when you email this person. So that's kind of cool. I like that. Put in my subject line. Then I can write my message, and I'm horrible at spelling and grammar. I will freely admit that. So I go back and I up arrow and I read my message, and it says misspelt word. So I move my arrow keys over to it with control left and right arrow, and it says misspelt word. So I press tab and it pops up a menu, and I press enter to select that option, right? All that makes sense.
Yep.
I get in Google Docs today and I start typing shit out and it says misspelled word. And so I use control left and right arrow and I get to the misspelled word and I press tab and it says tab and it doesn't pop that menu open. So I had to hit the applications key on the word and like, man, this is frustrating because it's little things like this that
the little inconsistencies in behavior. Gotcha.
That I think could prevent more people from being comfortable in Google products. Because like if it's a misspelled word, then let me.
So mine autocorrects sometimes.
Yeah, mine does
Google
too.
Docs.
Yep.
Yeah. But sometimes you type a word and it thinks it's misspelled or it's trying to give you grammar. Yeah, I get it. Like that does make a lot of sense though, because well, it makes sense what you're saying. What they're doing does not make sense, right? Be consistent in the behavior that you're going to do across your web apps, because they're all web apps, right? So we all expect them to behave the same.
Exactly.
But that is the problem with Google is inconsistent behavior across applications, across platforms, even across marketing. Because what is this thing called now? What am I? Am I a G Suite customer? But that's not really a thing. Am I a workspace customer? I don't know.
I'm an in between customer right now because I have not pulled the trigger to switch over to workspace yet. But they really want me to. Really want me.
I'm waiting to log into my admin panel and see the link where they're going to give me the discount for the first year or something like that.
Right.
And then I'll go ahead and pull the trigger because I'm going to have to, and eventually they're not going to offer that discount anymore. So I better get it while I can get it.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my complaint about Google inconsistencies because so to answer people though, you can use F7 in the browser to do a spell check, grammar check. And if you do highlight a word that's misspelt, you can press your applications key when it works right and be able to change the spelling or the grammar selections. And I kind of stumbled over my word because I just heard Jaws say, Damashe Thomas is editing near this paragraph. Damashe Thomas is no longer editing near this paragraph. Damashe Thomas is editing. So that is nice. I like that about Google. And then the last thing in this
YouTube.
Yes.
I will say this though before we get to YouTube. I do wish that you could slightly tweak the behavior in Google Docs because I'm not actually editing. I'm just reading where you are at the moment.
Right.
When I start typing is when I'm editing.
Yes, Google. That is so true.
But hey, considering for years that it didn't even tell me somebody was in a document with me sometimes. It's like, I'll take that.
Yeah. So YouTube, the only thing I wanted to say here is if you search for Payown, P-A-Y-O-W-N on YouTube, you are able to now find, by the time this show comes out, all of our episodes that we've published on YouTube too. Mainly did this because Taylor, I'm going to put Taylor out there. She said, you should put your podcast on YouTube. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to because, well, I don't listen to podcasts on YouTube. She goes, I listen to podcasts on YouTube all the time. I'm like, yeah, that means other people probably do too, so I might as well. So I'm using a tool that we can put a link to in the show notes called Tunes to Tube. And I am using them right now to upload content quickly to YouTube. What I really like about them is I have all of so if you look at our show notes, you'll see at the bottom of the show notes, which are available at yourownpay.com/DM80, a link to our tip jar that you can use for Pinecast if you want to tip in Pinecast. You don't get nothing special for tipping there, or you can tip at yourownpay.com/support. Doesn't matter either way. It also has our Twitter accounts and there's a affiliate code that you can use to try Pinecast out. So I took all that content and I copied it and I pasted it into the settings. And now when I upload a new show, all I have to do is go to the end of the line that already says yourownpay.com/DM, and I put in the show number there. And then I copy the show description from that show episode's page, and I paste it in minus any of the links because I don't want to be counted as spam. So I leave all the links out, and I say for links and more information, go to, and then it's that line that I put the show notes at the bottom of. And then it's already got tags in there for me. So all I do is upload the episode, which I found a tool that, I used, what was it? What did I use? Damashe. I used, was it grep and wget? I think that was the two tools that I used.
Yeah.
To download all the episodes.
I think you used curl.
Yes, curl, yeah. And then wget if you're interested.
I was using the Linux subsystem in Windows, man. He was all in the terminal doing bash commands and shit.
I know, but
curl.
It worked. It worked, and that's the thing is it worked. I've been trying to download all these episodes. Let me be slightly transparent. Up until about a week ago, Damashe and I don't think Damashe did. I did not have an archive of all of our shows. They were just, there.
Online. Yeah.
So that has been resolved. But I went and grabbed all those MP3 files. Wish I would have known about these power toys back at that point, because I had to go through and rename a lot of episodes, because the episode file gets renamed when it's uploaded to Pinecast. But once I grabbed all those and I downloaded it, then I renamed each episode DM1 through DM79 with the 2 special episodes we had. And then I put them in a folder, and then I started uploading them. And yeah, so that's going on YouTube. There will be a playlist eventually. And next week, or in 2 weeks, I'll do some follow-up. We need to figure out a system to keep track of these things we're going to do follow-up on. Maybe I'll make a section for future follow-up in this doc that we can use. But in 2 weeks, I'll give you guys a total length of content that we've produced, because it's not as much as some, but for the fact that we've committed to this for now 82 episodes, for me, that's saying a lot, so... Mallory told me, she's like, you don't have to record today. I'm like, yeah, I don't have to, but I do have to, because it's like the one time we get to sit down and talk tech and record it and entertain people. So hopefully people are getting value out of it.
Yeah, and let us know by dropping us a note on, oh no, you can't drop us a note on the website, hold on. And you can let us know by mentioning us on Twitter. He's at Payon, Payown. I am at Damashe, Damashe, and the show is at the DM Series.
Show notes and more information available at yourownpay.com/DM80.
You've been listening to Your Own Pay Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, visit yourownpay.com/cast for exclusive content and to contact us today. We're eager to hear your thoughts and about how you're making this podcast your own. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. The Your Own Pay Podcast, yourownpay.com.